It's great to see that the 8th Melbourne Women and Film Festival is about to happen from March 21st to the 25th at Acme. And as always, it's my great pleasure to be speaking to the festival director of MWFF, Sian Mitchell. Sian, welcome again to Movie Metropolis.
Thank you so much for having me on again.
Great to talk to you, and you've really put together such an interesting program of quite eclectic films. What were the challenges in finding the right films this year?
Well, it wasn't super challenging actually. We kind of had a relatively clear idea that we wanted to make sure that we included some films around sort of climate and sustainability and those sorts of things. That was always pretty clear with the programming team. But with our opening night film with Hangana, that kind of we discovered that quite late actually in the process because there was a screening of it at Acme in December last year. And we thought, oh, this would actually be perfect for our festival. And then it ended up being sort of our opening night film. So part of it was quite easy to kind of put together in relation to the theme that we're exploring. And then some were just we just came across it out of luck in some ways that and we're able to secure it, which is fantastic.
Oh, excellent. I'm so pleased to hear that. And you've
Mm.
mentioned, is it pronounced Wingana, did you say?
Winhangana. Yeah.
Winagana. I noticed the National Film and Sound Archive actually commissioned this film. It sounds very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, so they've an initiative called Revision, re-dash forward slash vision, from the National Film and Sound Archive, which is, yeah, I mean, our previous engagement with the archive has been to obviously look for retrospective works from women filmmakers, where we've screened like the Cheetahs and that sort of thing with them. And then to find this and to know that it was through the NFSA as a contemporary piece was really exciting because it obviously still connects with a lot of the stuff that we like to look at in the festival around legacies of filmmakers and film and moving image, but reframed in a really interesting kind of way, which for this film is through the First Nations lens of the filmmaker Jazz Money. So yeah, so it's kind of bringing in all the things that we're really interested in as a festival into the one film, really.
It sounds great. Can you tell me more
Mm.
about Jazz Money? It's a name I've not heard of.
Yeah, Jazz is a wiradjuri artist and poet and filmmaker and just all round creative person, which is, yeah, so we're very excited. She's going to come down for the festival as well for opening night and we'll do a Q&A with her, which is really exciting. So we can kind of hear more about her work. But with this film, I guess it's her aesthetic, I suppose, is exemplified through the kind of poetic structure and nature of the film. So it only goes for about 64 minutes. It's not it's feature length obviously, but not a kind of full feature length that we would expect. And she kind of creates these beautiful chapters working through this history of First Nations representation in moving image, Australian moving images. So kind of examining and interrogating the archive a little bit here as well, and in how First Nations, she talks about First Nations bodies and how they're being sort of colonized by, you know, moving image archives, I guess, Western institutions, and presents these chapters that kind of move that story forward, but in a more sort of poetic documentary way. So yeah, it's hard to describe. It's beautiful, it's confronting, it's also quite hopeful. And that was her intention, for it to be a kind of hopeful piece as well, not all doom and gloom, I suppose, in thinking about our First Nations people's position in our contemporary culture and, of course, the history there. So it's confronting that and also ending on notes of hope, which is really great. Yeah.
Sounds like a really interesting film. I'm going to be there on
Mm.
opening night, so I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Yeah, good, good. It's beautiful. It really is. Yeah.
Yeah, excellent. Now let's talk about some other films because you've got some feature films and short films, etc. I remember seeing maybe it was last year, Carbon, the Unauthorized Biography, a documentary which I found really quite unusual in some respects.
Yeah, it is unusual in that, and this is what I really like about it, is that it kind of personifies the carbon, you know, as a woman, which is great in a way, I guess. I mean, because women are very complex, and so is thinking about carbon, and this is, I think, the connection there. It's voiced that Carbon is also voiced by Sarah Snook,
Yeah.
which is great too, considering all her success recently. Um, but yeah, so it kind of gives a exploration of carbon, its integral position in everything around us and us as people, as well as obviously, confronting its bad name in certain ways. So, it kind of really develops this character of carbon through the documentary process, which is very, very fun and very informative. I learned a lot watching this documentary. I was, one of those people who's like, oh yeah, no, carbon's terrible. Carbon's really bad. We need to cut down that carbon. But this kind of gives a little bit of a new perspective, I think, on it.
It does, yeah. I found it quite interesting and different, and I'm wondering if the screening at MWFF will have a carbon tax at the end of the film.
We haven't put one on actually. Oh, maybe we should have added some carbon credits. We do have a filmmaker panel though, and I have to really spruik this one
Yes.
because it's the co-director Daniela Ortega and also the producer Sonia Pemberton who will be doing this. And we had Sonia recently on another panel that we did with City of Melbourne on for this initiative around extreme heat over summer. And so it was all around how to communicate through storytelling climate science, which was just so super interesting. So, she kind of speaks about how like the kinds of language and images that were used in this film in order to engage people and get them to actually kind of listen to the message of the film and what to do and what not to do. So I'm hoping she'll bring that up again in this panel because it is fascinating, like
Mm,
how to get audiences on side around those sorts of issues that can be so polarizing and divisive, you
yes.
know?
Oh,
Mm.
that's excellent, and that's the value added that you put in the festival, of course, having some panel discussions and extra events around the 21st to the 25th of March at ACME. Now, tell me about this film, which is an Australian premiere, Read, called Get to the Wire.
Oh, so this is a short film that's in a special package we've put together.
Ah,
Yeah, so it's part of our world thematic shorts screening. And this one explores uh and I'm trying to get I think it's Afghanistani or Iranian refugee in a refugee camp, female woman, and just kind of the stress, I guess, of being in this place. It's quite it kind of engages with, I guess, yeah, contemporary ideas around immigration, refugee status, particularly at the moment when we sort of think about what's happening overseas. Just being displaced people, but it's got a little bit of a sci-fi bent to it. It's sort of set in the future a little bit as well, but it kind of does engage with those sorts of quite, I guess, yeah, really serious issues that are happening in the world at the moment.
mm.
So that's what that one is about. I'm not going to spoil it anymore, but
No,
it
no,
gets
no
thinking, and
spoilers.
it is a little bit confronting. But that whole session of shorts,
Yeah.
this year's theme, we're really wanting to explore really broadly. We've called it environments. So social, cultural, and natural environments, hence carbon, for example. But this session is we received a number of shorts like this one that was really sort of examining contemporary either socio-political issues, trans issues, and the kind of fight for LGBTQI rights that are happening at the moment, particularly in the US, and the war on women that's happening over there too, and also, of course, yeah, the climate crisis and what that's doing, particularly for our First Nations peoples, including the Pacific Islands. So Pacifica filmmakers are kind of we've got some films from like the Cook Islands, for example, kind of looking at the impact of environmental change on their homes.
Terrific to see these packages of short films. I think that's
Mm.
fantastic. And I notice a filmmaker I've spoken to a number of times, Margot Nash, has got a film in your festival too, Undercurrents.
Yeah, so that's in the same package.
Ah,
Outdoors pack. Yeah, because this one is her, I guess, partly looking back, I suppose, on her own history as a filmmaker, but also her kind of reflecting on the position and her perspective of the world at the moment as well. So it's kind of bringing in this history with the contemporary frame, um, because obviously she's been so involved in a lot of activism and,
mm,
sort of political, um, yeah, I just say activism again,
mm.
but from her earlier sort of feminist filmmaking days as well, that it feels like, and it's the same with the closing night film, I think a little bit as well, which is Jenny Thornley's memory film. Thornley goes back and looks at her activist work from that time alongside a number of other kind of aspects of her history with family and friends and lovers and her Super 8 collection. It's a similar kind of thing, I think, where it's a point of reflection for both of these filmmakers at this point in different
Mm.
ways, I think, but they've had such a long career as artists and storytellers and filmmakers that it feels like they're at this point now where they're kind of looking back and reflecting on that, but how it kind of sits with them now, decades later. It's really interesting, I think.
It is, and I gather Margot will be at the festival.
No, she
No?
won't be.
Oh
I
no.
know. No, wonderful reason though. And it's the film got accepted into the Créteil Women's Film Festival in France, in Paris.
Ah,
And she hasn't been there for a very long time. So she's gonna go.
ah.
They're paying for her to go. So how could she say no? And
Oh.
look, I'm a bit jealous because it is a fantastic festival. I was there, I was able to go last year to that festival, and it's wonderful.
Ah, okay.
And yeah, so she won't be with us, but we'll get her down for something else. She's only up in Sydney.
Oh, look, that's great.
Proper.
Certainly an offer you can't refuse. I agree. It's
Mm.
it's
Jenny
wonderful.
Thornley will be here though. Jenny Thornley, not that I want to compare them because they are separate people, but Jenny Thornley will be here for closing night.
Well, I spoke to Jenny when her film was first released, Memory Film, A Filmmaker's Diary.
Mm.
Such an interesting film and beautifully put together. And
Yeah.
I'm so glad you're screening it as the closing night film.
Oh yeah, yeah, perfect for our closing night film. I mean,
Mm.
when we put I spoke to Jenny when we put our very first film festival together because we did a kind of retrospective of Australian films from the 1975 International Women's Film Festival that she was a part of, as in those co-ops, like the Sydney and Melbourne co-ops, and I think there was a Perth co-op or a group that worked with them on it as well. And I spoke to her at length about that time, and she gave me a whole bunch of resources and the program and everything, which is amazing. So it's great to have her part of the festival again in this way. So
Yes. Oh, look,
yeah.
it sounds terrific already. I'm sure a lot of people will want to go and see it. And I must ask you about a film which I don't know much about, but sounds fascinating. Let's go into horror and talk about Satanic Panic.
Yes, I could talk about this one all day, every day. This is a film by an incredible filmmaker who I think she's only 19 now, and this is her third feature film, but she's made four.
Oh.
Alice Mel McKee. So originally from Adelaide, but I think she's up in Sydney now. Um, it's so fun. So McKee's style is very much using a kind of horror, but sort of a kind of really colorful, kitschy kind of horror comedy aesthetic to create these stories that have this quite powerful undercurrent of being fighting transphobia. This one in particular, where it's sort of embodied through these demon cultist kind of people that our protagonists go along and, you know,
Mm.
take care of, so to speak. It's so fun. It really is. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it sounds like a great choice. It's
Yeah.
and one of my favorite films of last year, Kitty Green's superb, I thought, Royal Hotel.
Yeah, excellent film. Really excellent film. So again, it's kind of both in different ways too as Satanic Panic. kind of fits the theme really nicely around kind of fighting back against all of this
Mm.
anti-trans rhetoric that's around at the moment, in a fun way as well, a kind of cathartic way too. And then this, I think the Royal Hotel is really interesting too, because it is using genre. It's using sort of, you know, psychological thriller as its genre to interrogate Australian culture in a particular way. It's gendered because we've got these two young women from Canada who are kind of thrust into this really hyper sort of masculinized Australian kind of environment at this pub in the middle of the outback. And you know how, you know, drinking culture, you know, examines drinking culture in relation to that as well. And again, I feel like it has moments of catharsis as a woman in Australia. I don't want to give it away, but the end, I would be really interested to hear what people think of the end of the film.
Yes. Oh, I
Yeah.
really liked it, and I almost put it down as a female wake in fright.
Yes, yes, I've heard that. I've heard that about it. Yeah, it makes it makes total
Yeah,
sense.
yeah,
Mm.
and no, but it's really well done. Look, what a terrific selection of films and panel discussions and short films and so on. Let's talk more about, is there anything else you wanted to highlight before we get on to how people can get tickets and all that sort of thing?
Oh, well, yeah, there's some really great panels and stuff happening as
Yeah.
well, just around, again, engaging with themes of sustainability. So thinking of sustainable futures. If you're a filmmaker, we've got like a workshop on how to make your films more sustainable, your productions, so a bit more environmentally friendly, because film productions do have quite a big impact on our environment, as well as thinking about working conditions for women and gender diverse people. We've got a free panel on the Saturday on that topic, which is also really important, I think, to highlight.
You've jammed a lot into the 4 days or 5 days of the festival from March
We do.
21st to the 25th at Acme. It's going to be buzzing.
Yep, it's going to be great. Come along.
So let's talk about the website, booking tickets, all that sort of thing.
Yes, so you can find the whole program, all the details and book tickets through our website, which is mwff.org.au. And we also have a page on our artwork for this year. We commissioned some First Nations event and sustainability to that First Nations lens, particularly opening with Winhangana as well. And so there's just a little bit about like the artist statement from the creation of the artwork too. So I want to highlight that because they're fantastic artists. Bindi Bindi Art, they're called.
Uh-huh. Oh,
Yeah.
excellent stuff. It sounds like a great package. Look, well done, Sian, on another excellent sounding Melbourne Women and Film Festival. And I must ask you, apart from everything in the festival, have you seen anything else of late, anywhere, cinema, television, whatever, that has impressed you?
Yes, Anatomy of a Fall very much impressed me. Loved that film from last year. And I will say I'm watching at the moment too, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, the TV series.
Hmm.
That's been really great as well. So I'm raring to go on another episode this weekend. But I really, really liked Anatomy of a Fall.
Oh, it's an excellent film. Justine Triet has done such a good job with that
Mm.
film, and it's up for 5 Oscars. I wonder if it'll win any. I hope.
Deservedly.
Yes.
Yeah, yes, me too, me too. And I hope that, I don't know if it will happen, but any like Celine's song and Past Lives as well. Amazing. And I will say, look, I've got a Barbie t-shirt on too. That was fun.
Yes, it'll be interesting to see Ryan Gosling sing live his song "I Am Ken" on the show.
Mm. I know. Yeah, I think a lot of people will just be tuning in for that.
Yes, yes, but
Mm.
again, I agree. Greta Gerwig did such a good job with fashioning that story, which could have gone a number of different directions.
Yeah, it could have been really empty and vacuous, and wasn't. It was great.
It was great. And speaking of
Mm.
great, we're also talking about the Melbourne Women and Film Festival, which is on at Acme, March 21st to the 25th, mwff.org.au for more details. And as always, it's a pleasure speaking to the festival director, Sian Mitchell. Sian, thank you so much for talking with me.
Thank you, Peter. Thanks so much.
All the best.
You too.
Bye-bye. Bye. Okay.